John Mcmullen, 97.3 ESPN.com. By the way, Doug Peterson is scheduled to talk to the media on Friday. So we'll have some Eagle stuff on Friday's show. We'll have a little Eagle stuff today as well. But I want to open up with I saw Oliver Luck this morning on the Golick and Wingo show, so I figured there was some XFL-related news. And lo and behold, one of the reasons he was on Golick and Wingo is because the XFL has struck a television deal with both Fox and ESPN. Games are going to be on Fox, ABC, FS1, ESPN. It sounds like it's almost too good to be true, but John McMullen doesn't like the deal.
Too good to be true is an understatement. It's like people see Fox and they see ESPN and their mind stops and they say, wow. And I don't want to downgrade the value of having a product on that kind of platform because it's very, very valuable. But I talked to people in the XFL, with the XFL. They were expecting to get significant, and that's a quote, revenue stream and television rights fees. They got zero. They are not getting paid to put their product on these stations. And as we've seen, I've talked about it a lot on this show, Mike, the world of professional sports is not exactly a small sample size. And the only successes are the industries that get significant television revenue. Even the NFL, which is the king of sports, we all know that in this country, 60+% of their revenue comes directly from television rights fees. So you can imagine what taking away that number would do to that industry. Start with the salary cap. That's the easiest way to explain it. Cut it by 60% tomorrow if they didn't have those television deals. There's no revenue stream. Just like we talked about with the AAF, this deal is disastrous, and nobody knows it.
Now, one of the things that now you say disastrous, they are on television, which helps them, right? That helps them try to secure sponsorship, I guess. I mean, do they get the ability to sell commercial spots, or does that all go to the networks as well? Number one. Number two, I did read that they are getting their production fees paid for, which the AAF did not have, which causes a lot of people who try to do live television, that's where they can't make it, is because they can't spend the money to put on a live television show.
Well, I'll say this. That's how they spun it, because they have to spin it in as positive a direction as there is. It is certainly a better deal than the AAF. They are getting production for at least, I think, 23 of the games at $400,000. But I'll give you an example. The WWE, and I use that as an example because Vince McMahon obviously owns the XFL. On the average Monday Night Raw show, they spend over $1 million in production for that show. They're getting $400,000 for production of 23 games, which essentially is somewhere between $13 and $15 million. It's nothing. It's worse than nothing. And the only positive is the platform and the hope you can generate significant television ratings. And then 3 years down the line, when the money for this albatross is ready to run out, somebody will step forward and pay significant television rights, and they're not going to. And I hope I'm wrong,
right,
but I'm not going to be wrong.
Well, and this situation is a little different from the AAF, is that Vince McMahon, one entity, is putting the money up and can probably be more judicious with a loss than what was going on with the AAF, correct?
Well, certainly at the start. I mean, at the AAF, the lead investor is now going to jail, Reggie Fowler. So certainly at the start. But understand, when Tom Dundon bought the league, he could have continued for 3 years. He had enough money. He certainly has enough money. But once the losses started to pile up, once he realized there's no obvious revenue streams, he said, I'm going to pull the plug. There's no question Vince has more of a passion. He set aside 3 years so they can go 3 years. There's no question about that, even with no television money. And then it's up to him. How much money do you want to lose? Because there's no revenue streams. And when people talk about sponsorships, again, I turn towards the NFL, which has the best sponsorships in professional sports. It's a drop in the bucket. It's nothing compared to television rights fees. And you mentioned advertising. No, they have no barter system. Fox and ESPN and ABC, they control all the advertising revenue. This is a disastrous deal.
Right, you're right. The XFL is already on life support after this deal, whether people understand that or not. Well, right, it's being, celebrated today like they got this great deal and that they're already in a much better spot. Now, they feel like, I guess, having ESPN backing them and promoting this product is going to help?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the theory, and it's certainly been espoused before. That's what the AAF said. They were hopeful that the product would be good. You get it on a big platform, and this is certainly even a bigger platform. When you talk about places like Fox and ESPN and ABC, those are legitimate top-tier networks. So as far as the value of getting those hours on those stations, that's significant. I'm not downplaying that. But now you're on the clock. First of all, you have to generate ratings. Now, when you talk about, for instance, the NFL's TV deals or any other professional sport, you have a length of time. And whether it's a 10-year deal, 5-year deal, whatever, you're guaranteed that money. Now, from the XFL standpoint, they're guaranteed 1 year of this television time. And if the ratings aren't good enough, they can pull the plug. It doesn't matter to them. There's no guarantees from the network standpoints. It's from there. It's low risk, high reward from the network standpoint. From the XFL standpoint, it's tremendous risk, and the reward is so far down the road you can't even see it.
John, what's differentiating the XFL from the AAF? Because on paper with the AAF, there was a lot of interesting things that they were doing as far as health benefits, salary, giving players freedom to go elsewhere if they get the opportunity.
Number one, those were all lies.
Exactly. Well, that's kind of my point. So with the XFL now, what's credible with them? What are they doing, I guess allegedly, that can get the players in and can make them profitable outside of this TV deal?
Even if you talk about the original XFL, again, this is a legitimate businessman, whether you like him or not. All the background money is there. He owns a public company. You can see the stock he sold to start this league. You can see the company Alpha Entertainment he created to start this league. The money is there. So it's not an AAF situation where Reggie Fowler says, I have this money that he's trying to steal from somebody overseas, and he doesn't have the money. So there's a significant difference in the fact you have a reputable businessman who's been successful for 40-plus years versus a bunch of con men. As far as the product itself, there's the strength of the AAF. And the football side of that league was good. And Bill Polian and the people were trying to create a good product. We still have to see with the XFL. It's supposed to be different than the original version. To date, Vince has kind of stayed out of it, and that's certainly helpful. He's letting Oliver Luck run things, and we'll see how that develops. But just from a financial standpoint, this is significantly different from the AAF because it's legitimate with legitimate funding. So from that, it's a positive. But this TV deal is not a positive.
You just get done saying, John, how there's legitimate businessmen. They know what they're doing as far as operating a business, starting the league up, such as the XFL. Is there some type of strategy here for this TV deal? Like, are they just taking a massive risk and they're going to be able to leverage it somehow? Like, I just don't understand what their end game is with it.
Well, the hope at the original start when they announced it was you saw these deals coming in, and Vince was off his wrestling deal where he got over $1 billion from Fox, over $1 billion from NBC Universal. So there was this hope that there was such a need for what they call DVR-proof product in television, and that's live sports or live entertainment that people will watch and sit through the commercials. The belief was there was enough competition with channels that somebody would ante up significant money to air this on their network. It didn't manifest itself. So from that standpoint, they went to the second best option, which was because of his history producing television, and he has obviously tremendous inroads with Fox, and from negotiating with ESPN and ABC in the past, they know he can develop a professional-looking product, so at least he could get on these large platforms. So now it shifts toward we got to get good ratings, and if we get good ratings, 3 years down the line, you revisit the original plan again, and somebody will be willing to pay for it. I hope somebody does, but I don't see it.
Right. So are they essentially their business plan at this point is to try to stay afloat for 3 years in the hope that somebody will then pay them for their product?
Correct. And they do have the money to stay afloat for 3 years. So essentially, that's what you're doing. You're losing $75 million a year, somewhere in that range, and your hope is at the end of that 3-year period, Fox and ABC or other networks, because they've seen the ratings, come in, start the bidding, and say, this is valuable. And if that TV faucet money turns on, those losses will be negligible. You won't even remember them in 10 years. But we've seen so many people have been down this road, including Vince himself with the original XFL. History is what history is.
Yeah, and I guess Oliver Luck was on this morning with Golick and Wingo here on 97.3 ESPN, and he essentially said that they thought the AAF pay structure was faulty, that was a problem they had. They're going to pay their players more money, the higher-end players. And one of the questions that we asked, John, a couple of weeks ago around draft time was, apparently the XFL is you're not going to have to play 2 years, and I know you don't think that the very best players are going to leave college early to go here, but what if they're paying those guys a decent amount of money to just say, look, you don't need to go to college, you can come right here?
Yeah, I've talked about it. I mean, if you look at Trevor Lawrence, for instance, or somebody of that nature, I think there is untold rewards from playing major college football and at a place like Clemson.
It just takes one guy to be like, look, you're going to give me $250. Like in the AAF, they couldn't overpay to lure a guy there. But it seems that the XFL, if they wanted to try to set a precedent. Right.
They could, but again, I think agents are smart enough to tell players, because in that, remember, you're turning professional at that stage, and you're going to hurt your value. You're not going to increase your value by going to the XFL over playing, say, at Clemson or Alabama or Ohio State or Oklahoma. So, I mean, part of it is like going to college and for any other industry. I mean, you pay a lot of money to get a degree, and then you hope to go on your way and earn money down the road. Certainly in professional sports, it's just more valuable to play it at schools of that level than it is to play, I don't know, we don't even have the names of the teams yet, but to play for some minor league football league. So I just don't think there's going to be a windfall of players. Now, there could be the exception that has some serious financial issues family-wise, and they have to do it. But I don't think it's going to be this big groundswell.
As idiotic as this TV deal is, John, Like, what was their other option? As risky and as uphill of a battle it seems like it's going to be, was this their only way?
Their other option is take your $3.5 billion and enjoy life and run your successful business.
Right.
What? No, I mean, once it became clear that nobody was going to pay for it, yeah, this is the best option possible. You can't do better than Fox and ESPN and ABC for sports. From the platform standpoint, that's not the issue. But everybody, as I said, everybody stops at the platform and they say, wow, they're on Fox, they're on ABC. They're not getting paid, though. So it's great. It looks good, and you see everybody how excited they are. But, I mean, the realization, get this, guys, because I was tweeting about this today. And AE Wrestling, Mike's a wrestling guy. They're about to start up. They're going to announce their TV deal probably on May 15th. I got a very high-level source with that company who flat out told me today that they will have a better deal than the XFL got today on May 15th. And this is a wrestling company that hasn't put one show on yet, and they're going to get paid more money than the XFL. Now, we'll see how it shakes out, but he guaranteed me that's going to be the case. That's how bad this deal is.
That would be a shame, right? I mean, if it would be really bad to say, like, the one tried and went out in the middle of the season, and then it looks like the XFL at least will give it the full 3 years. Do you at least have that expectation?
Give us one.
Well, yeah, I do, and that's where the spin starts. Again, you can put these TV deals, and we just lived through it with Charlie Ebersol when he claimed at first it was a barter system and had part of the advertising. Turned out that wasn't even true. So you can, structure these deals in different ways. Maybe you split the advertising time for the platform. Maybe you get paid a little bit and give the advertising time back to the networks. Maybe you can split it that way. But in real money, and we use the NFL as the top sports league in this country, they get $7 billion from this.
The Saturday after the Super Bowl, just like the AAF did, and they run through April the 26th starting next year. They have a little bit of a different, they're going to be on prime time, back-to-back Saturdays and Sundays. They're going to have Thursday night football as well. So ESPN, at least, and Fox is going out of their – you would think the production and that everything is going – so it's going to be odd in 3 years if the XFL says, now we want you to pay for this. And they're like, nah, no thanks. I mean, that will be an interesting stare down.
Well, and that's part of it as well. Look, and from the XFL standpoint, if the revenues are significant, ratings, are significant, they probably will be willing to pay for it. Or if they are not, you'll have other bidders that can. And maybe it's lesser stations. Maybe it's TNT, TBS, or somebody of that nature, but they might be willing to pay for the product. On the other hand, you do get a bit of a reputation. I mean, let's be honest. If you sit there and say, look, we need the platform to kick off this industry, to kick off this sport, to kick off this league, and it's so valuable to be on Fox, it's so valuable to be on ESPN, well, you're not in a great leverage position. Because then they're going to say, whether it's 2 years from now, 3 years from now, look at what we were able to do. That's the value of our station. So maybe you are worth $100 million at that time. But they say, you know what? We're going to offer you $20 million. So you lose a lot of leverage. In a lot of ways, this first deal, you can only create one first impression. It's just not good.
John McMullen at JF McMullen on Twitter. And as we know, the Eagles will have minicamp on Friday. Doug Peterson will speak as well, so we'll have a lot of Eagles news towards the end of the week. And this XFL story, very interesting. A lot of fanfare with this TV deal, but as John breaks down for our listeners, maybe not as good as it sounds, or maybe not as good as they're trying to make it sound. We'll see a year from now if by this time next year, if we're still anticipating what's good, their season would be over by now. They would have already had the championship game, right?
I think they're certainly going to go more than one season, even out of spite. I mean, Vince is going to keep it going for at least 2 years to prove he can do it. And then I think you start talking about shutting it down and seeing how much money they've lost by that point. But people who doubt, remember, Mike, remember what I said about the AAF.
That's right. I don't doubt you.
And, Mike, real quick before I leave, tell Joel to wash his hands. I told Josh that as well.
That's the issue.
Yeah, he
needs a pocket hand sanitizer.
That's right. He needs more hand sanitizer. All right. John, we'll talk to you tomorrow, pal.
All right. Thanks, Jeff.